I just inked the sketch that I did last night and it has turned out so good. It's better than 90% of the sketches that I do, so I thought it was the perfect opportunity to share my colouring process using my alcohol markers. I'm so excited. Kia ora everyone, this is Hey Johanna. Welcome to this video showing my colouring process using my absolute favourite art medium, alcohol markers. I love these ones in particular by Winsor & Newton. They're just so pretty and they're so fun and they blend so well together and I just love them. So yeah, hope you enjoy this video. So one of the first things I need to do when colouring a picture like this is figure out my colour palette. So as you can see, I've already got my skin colours figured out over here. One of the ways I make this easier on myself is by using a swatch sheet. So I'd like to keep this nearby. This is what mine looks like. So as you can see, I've got all the hues laid out in colour order so I can see which pens are going to blend well together. So usually I go through starting with my skin tones and have a look, see which ones are going to blend together well, which ones are maybe heading towards a yellower sort of skin tone and which ones are heading towards maybe a pinker one. And so I just select a couple, pull them out of my marker stash and then start testing them. One of the ways that I like to test, especially skin colours, is to make these spheres and kind of colour them in as if it was a sphere of like skin. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll start with the lightest colour. And I'll slowly build up into the darker colours to sort of get that gradient and see how well that these pens are going to blend together. Now, as you can probably see right now, this sort of skin tone selection is nearing the more yellow side of things rather than the more pinky side of things, which is fine. I usually use a more pinky coloured skin tone because I own so many pink skin tones, but I thought I'd try a yellow skin tone for once. But what I like to do when using a yellow skin tone is actually add in a more pinky tone as well, because it just sort of makes it less flat and less boring, because let's be honest, skin is not like that. Skin is just a rainbow of different colours. So adding in a little bit of pink is always a good thing. So it's just real messy. You don't need to do much. I just like to test whether the skin tones are going to blend well together, whether they're going to look good together, and I can see that this works pretty well. So I'm going to use these 5 as my skin tones, and I may even go and find a darker, like a really deep colour later on if I think I need it. Whenever I do an illustration with my alcohol markers, I almost always start with colouring in the skin. It's just the most fun for me. It's the most visually interesting part of the drawings usually, and when someone's looking at a drawing, they're just going to look at the face almost instantly, so I like it to be the best part. I put all of my effort into the skin, and I just feel like, you know, it sets the tone for the rest of the drawing. Like if the skin turns out great, then the rest of the drawing turns out great because I'm excited about it and I think it looks awesome, and I'm, you know, it just turns into a good drawing. But if it turns out a little bit blotchy or a little bit then that's sort of reflected in the art quite often. So I have been using my brush markers mostly for the blending because I find them easier to blend than the pro markers. I mean, not bashing the pro markers, I love the pro markers, but it actually is a little bit easier to sort of push pigment around with the brush markers. So that's the color I'm using now. And you can see that I do use it for almost all the spaces, but I started running out of that pen about halfway through this drawing, and yeah, it just sort of became a disaster because everything came a bit blotchy and I couldn't really blend properly. And as you can see, I put in a really, really dark color here and I couldn't blend it out, and I was thinking, oh no, I'm gonna have to stop filming, I'm just gonna have to throw this piece in the bin. So yeah, I didn't think that the skin was going too well, and I think that does reflect in the art towards the end. It's not one of my best pieces, but you know, I still like it. I think I managed to bring it back. So as you can see, I chiseled out the face a little bit too much. Like that shadow there, man, that's too deep. It's a little bit unnatural looking, but that's okay. And then the pink color I put in was just so wrong. And I couldn't blend it out because my blending marker was just running out, and everything was going wrong. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I can't show people this. It's turning out horrible, and I was so worried about it. Ugh, yellow skin is so hard. I'm just so used to pink tones in the skin, not yellow ones. And I don't have a perfect palette. I don't have all of the Winsor & Newton Pro Markers or brush markers. I just have, I think I have about 80 or so of them combined. So I think I didn't have enough transitional colours, which is why the skin turned out looking a little bit wrong. Anyway, you can see me starting to do the lips there a little bit. I was going through a more natural look with them. So here I am starting the hair. As you can see, I used 7 colours for the hair, which is just ridiculous. I mean, by the end you can't even see that palest colour that I put in. It's basically white, but that's okay. I was just, I was still feeling a little bit bad about the skin, and I was just trying to layer and layer and layer the hair and pull the piece back, and it just wasn't really working for me, and so I went darker and darker and darker, but I think it turned out right in the end. It's, it's just hair. So I didn't want it to be this like bright bubblegum kind of colour, like it was just too bright for me. So I started trying to add in like some darker colours just to bring some more depth into the drawing and make it a little bit more moody. This one's a really lovely colour. I love the antique rose colour. And then I added in some grey, which I was trying to make it like the roots of the hair, but it just ends up looking a little bit muddy, a little bit confused, but I don't know. I think it definitely changes the look of the hair. It's not this bright, sort of intense pink. It's more of a sort of subdued kind of pink. So I think it, everything turned out all right in the end, but it's probably took me as long as the skin, if not a little bit longer, and that's pretty unusual because the hair for me is usually like done. Anyway, so here I am colouring in the blazer now, and oh my goodness, that blue there, that china blue is just my favourite colour. It's so pretty, it's a little bit sort of grayer, it's not so bright. I just love it so much. Isn't it beautiful? Look at it, oh my gosh. Anyway, I wanted this blazer to be a little bit darker and a little bit less saturated, which is why I chose the china blue initially, but it was still a bit too saturated for me, so I just went over with some grey colours and tried layering up the china blue a little bit to make it a bit darker. And something I always forget with these alcohol markers is that they go down looking a lot darker, and then after a couple of minutes when they're dried they just become lighter. So as you can see, like I coloured in that blazer before and I'm doing it again, putting a third sort of layer on. It looks dark now, but in a few minutes it's just going to lighten up, and that's fine. I just always forget that, and I think, oh my goodness, it's too dark, it's all yuck and gross, and then it kind of lightens up and it all evens out and it's all fine. I was going to do the headphones in a kind of yellowy colour, but the whole drawing was turning out to be a little bit too colourful. I really wanted this to be a less saturated drawing, but it was all becoming so bright and everything, so I thought I'd just go with a nice neutral sort of grey colour for the headphones. That's pretty much what all headphones I've ever owned look like, so yeah, I don't regret that decision at all. I think it would have been way too colourful if I had gone in with like a yellow or something. So here I am starting the roses as well. My favourite colour of roses are these like peachy, saffron-y kind of white ones, the ones with the sort of yellowy colour in the centre and then it kind of fades out to a white. They're just, oh my gosh, they're so pretty. They're so much better than red roses. I think this drawing came out really good with them as well. I think it'd probably be better if they weren't outlined with the black, because that really makes them a little bit too contrasty. And if you look up a picture of those sort of peachy white roses, then they don't really look like that at all. But I just think they turned out so good. Just layering up the colours a little bit. Oh, here's another one of my favourite colours. It's this pear green. Isn't that just gorgeous? Isn't that just the best kind of green that there is? That's one of the things I love about these Winsor & Newton markers. They're just, every colour I put down ends up becoming one of my favourite colours. They're just all gorgeous. I haven't yet bought one of their markers and put the colour down on paper and been like, yuck, that's a gross colour. Okay, so I zoomed in a little bit so I could do the eyes and some more details, and as you can see I'm darkening up the lips a little bit to give it a less natural kind of look. adding some shadows in here and there. I think I add some shadows into the roses a bit, just to make them look a little bit more natural. And then I just go in with my white jelly roll pen and add a couple of highlights. And I kind of thought she was looking a bit boring, so I thought as a last final touch I'd give it some glasses. I just got some new glasses like 2 days ago and I've been real excited about them, so that's probably what prompted this. So yeah, just giving her some basic round glasses, a little bit of interest to the piece, and giving them a little bit of a shadow underneath on her face and a couple of highlights in there. Sort of rose tinted the glasses just a tiny bit, and then I was pretty much done. So this is how the final piece turned out. I think it's alright. It's not one of my favorites, but you know, it's pretty cute. It's got a couple of my favorite colors in there, like the china blue and the pear green. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty proud. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye!